without pushing any hand at all, what I'm looking for is the overall gesture. What I'm looking for is the overall impact, and then I'm trying to build it into a bunch of blocks as quickly and easily as possible. Like that, you're very often going to have the essence of the gesture of a hand, then you've got to build a thumb that comes off the side. But just with those two large shapes, you're going to have the thrust of a hand. Okay, it may look more like a flipper initially, but then you go through and break out the elements that pull away from that and find your hand as a whole and strengthen it and build it into what you're actually seeing. So if you had a hand straight on from the side, same idea. Can I reduce it to a couple of cubes like this that will show me where the bulk of the hand's gesture is? And then from that, can I add on my additional elements that are going to break it into something more complex? We will get ultimately to many of the complexities, but this is how I think when I'm starting. So I've got his wrist coming in here. I've got the outside contour of his hand coming down at an angle about like that, then dropping into his knuckles and falling through here. I've got that main finger running along, which is going to curve, going in. I've got my hand too big. Let's shrink this down. Like that. And then I've got the thumb gesture coming off, which is lovely, graceful motion. The triangle coming down from fingers to tip drops me about that far. Then this comes up. I'm going to narrow this whole thing down because I've got it too broad. But what am this is sort of my outlining, finding, blocking stage. What I care more about is, can I turn this into a construct that is like my set of blocks initially? Can I, in my mind's eye, break this down into something that is more like my set of two card decks stacked together, or cigarette boxes stacked together? Can I resolve this in such a fashion quickly that, to me, what I'm seeing is a box like this, another box in front of it coming down about this far, and then one that drapes out into the fingers. And that is, in many ways, all I have to this hand. I've got the thumb coming off on top of this box, so it actually drops out here and then creates a substructure that goes like that. But I'm still, in my mind's eye, wrapping this all in so that it feels like solid chunks that I can pick up. I am looking for planes by mass conceiving. Go for a brush, as in all things, that's a size or two larger than you think is appropriate, and stick to your looser gestures early on, because gesture is crucial. Specifics, not so much. Pull that up. There, it's a little longer, which means my thumb is a little bit too high. The joint on the thumb is a little higher than all the knuckles here. The knuckles are going to play through about that range. This turns here, comes down and in, goes back across, and we're in the ballpark. I'm going to create almost like a little palette within my palette down here, an area where the blue turns purpley over to red, the red oranges over to the yellow, and then the yellow greens up as it plays into the blue. I often do that when I start out. I am not a big fan of working out of puddles. I don't think that it's a grand idea to get a color going really well and then use it everywhere. So I will be scraping up and cleaning off my palette constantly, but often my first step is something like this. And let's get something up there and get started. That's not bad. It's a little purpley. I'm seeing more yellow in there than that initial color suggests. And it also feels a little bit light to me. So I'm going to grab some yellow, jump into it, and mix it up with a little more red and blue, but still more predominantly yellow, and play that through. That's better. Notice that even in my initial stage here, I'm not, whoa, hello, how'd that get on there? I am not trying to, or I'm not allowing myself to paint very close to the canvas. I'm not just getting the coloring and scrubbing it down small. I'm actually picking up the paint and laying it on. That went darker than I expected. In order to ensure that as I move forward, I've got a body of paint that I can adapt and adjust. The greatest virtue of oil painting is its flexibility, its capacity to change, and it's easiest to change things when you've got some paint on there. I've laid down the foundation for much of what I want to do. I've begun to play with my color set, but my values and hues and saturation are by no means resolved. My next step is going to be finishing blocking in everything that's there and taking a pass through for the purpose of balancing the hues, the values, the saturation, but not changing things dramatically.